All right. Thank you everyone for being here. This is our APIDA alumni panel. So I have 5 questions for our panelists. So the first question is, what is the best a piece of advice you receive as an undergrad?
All right, shall I just go for this?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Hi guys, my name is Miriam, and I think the best piece of advice I ever got was to basically like fake it until you make it. And this was like from one of my supervisors. I was like working on campus for like this program called Educational Talent Search, and basically it's just like to help high schoolers kind of find their way to college a little bit easier. And anyways, my job was always like to do stuff within the office, and like that was it. Like I was a little office rat. And then like one day they're just like, hey, we need you to give this tour. And I was just like, of what? And they're like, of the school. And I was like, that's not my job position. I don't know if I can do that. And they were like, do you go to the school? And I was like, yeah. And then she's like, then you should be able to give a tour. And I was like, okay. And I was like really nervous about it, but she's kind of told me like, these kids, they don't know the difference. Like, if you just go out there and just be honest and just say your experience and, just point out things that you already know, they'll just think you're another tour guide. And I did it and it worked. Like no one hated me after the tour. People were still like fine. And I was like, okay, so this advice kind of works then. So I definitely say like, if you're ever just nervous about anything, like just try your best to like calm down and then, just project some confidence and like, I'm sure you will be fine in the end.
That's awesome. Fake it till you make it. Anybody else want to chime in?
I think, hello, I'm Lisa again. I think for me, I really didn't have anybody to mentor me while in school. My parents worked full time. My sister worked full time. I had a middle sister who went to school with me. And so I wish I had a mentor or somebody to walk me through things to do. But looking back, my advice would be to get a student job, a student position, and do internships, because the experience that you gain from those is what's going to get you to get a job. I was lucky that I had experience with my internships and I did really well. And so I think that's the reason why I got my job today. But I think, just try to get as much experience as you can, because it's so competitive out there that even if it's volunteer work, I say just go for it, because it's all about your experience. And a lot of people are doing a lot of work. So there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, definitely diversify your resume, being able to stand out. Anyone else?
I would say also to not take the easiest class. I think oftentimes that taking the harder class would challenge you a little more, and you learn way more by doing that. You can learn from your mistake, where it doesn't matter as much, but I think once you get in the workplace, the mistakes that you make are compounded. So I would try to make a mistake now while you're still nimble enough to recover, and take some hard classes.
Definitely. I think make mistakes now so that you can learn from it and be better. I think I heard like a podcast about like, if you haven't made mistakes and learned from it, then you really don't have a lot of different experience. So thank you so much for sharing. V?
Yeah, hi everyone, V again. I guess another advice that I would give, or the advice that I received when I was an undergrad, was to network more and advocate for myself, because I know at least for me, as a first gen college student, like no one teaches you how to advocate for yourself. Sorry for that. Like no one teaches you how to advocate for yourself, and like being immigrant myself, like it's always been so hard to like put myself out there like professionally, and to network with people and connect with people. So I would say that has been a really good like advice that I received, is just to kind of just put myself out there. So by like like collecting business cards, right? Because you never know when you need it, following up on emails and just being persistent with that, and also attending like career fairs, right? Because I know there's a lot of that at Cal State Fullerton, so taking full advantage of the opportunities that Cal State Fullerton has to offer in terms of like networking. So I promise like that will get you very far, because it's not about what you know all the time, it's who you know. So
yeah, definitely. I think this is a great networking opportunity as well. So if you feel comfortable putting your contact information at the end, and so students can, follow up with questions or get to know you, and maybe ask for a mentorship. So next question we have, does your career now fall in line with what you majored in?
Yes, for me. So I took a class. It was in my major. It was Newport Beach Film Festival, and so I was able to manage the. It's been so long, I don't remember. It's the Asian film festival portion of, because there's like the French. It's like there's the French one, there's the Latino X one, and there's but I managed the Asian one, and so that gave me a lot of experience in fundraising, press releases, and things like that. And then I also interned at the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and so they did galas, they did a lot of fundraising events, and because of those two events that I've managed, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go into event fundraising. And then when I graduated, I'm like, what am I gonna do? There's event planners, but I was like, I want to go into a nonprofit. And so I just started applying for as many jobs as I can. And then I'm just glad that Chapman University ended up hiring me. And so I did a lot of events regarding trying to get, the donations to help with student scholarships, the greatest needs of the university. And so for me, it definitely aligned, because people think communication, what are you going to do with communications, right? And entertainment studies, what is that? And I still don't know what entertainment studies is, but I was able to get a couple good experiences from the major, and it does fall in line with what I do today.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share?
I can go. I would say definitely. I mean, like when people hear ethnic studies or Asian American studies, right? They're like, oh, like what can you do with that major, right? And then when I was an undergrad, that was the question that I had too. And back then, my view of what I can do with an ethnic studies degree was pretty limited, right? Either go into nonprofit or higher ed. But in reality, ethnic study is so interdisciplinary, and it's so like translatable to a lot of fields. It's not just working at nonprofit or higher ed or like, like there's just so much route, right? And so for me, I learned this by being at my job now at UCI, right, doing public health, and just like applying a lot of what I've learned in ethnic studies to the career that I'm in now, which is making sure that our immigrant communities get as much access to health care as possible, and thinking about ways that our communities are not accessing these care, right? And so that really brings me back to what I've learned in ethnic studies, and all the oppression and like what our communities experience and what led them to not be able to access certain systems in our society. So I highly encourage that if you can take an ethnic study class, or if you feel like it's a calling for you, like don't be afraid to take it, because you're scared that it's not going to translate to a professional career. I guarantee you that it's very translatable, and you can do pretty much anything with an ethnic studies degree.
Tia, you're muted.
Does anybody else want to share before I ask the next question? Okay, so ask the next question is, what opportunities did you take advantage of during your time here that has benefited you in your field?
Okay, I'll go. I did a lot of clubs in school, and that was probably the thing that like changed my life in a sense. And like it was just because like when I started college, I was like extremely shy. I still am shy. Like my heart is beating really hard right now, trying to like talk to like 10 to 12 people. But like I was just so nervous, and I just thought like so little of myself, and I was like, oh, like you're just no good. But like clubs were such a good way to just like help me kind of grow, because like I would just like show up to like random clubs, and like I like just try and show up. And like over time, after I showed up enough times, like people started kind of being like, oh, like, hey, you showed up to this event. Do you want to help us out with this thing? And I'd be like, okay. And then I would just do that. And over time, like I just kind of started growing in positions, and like I gained a lot of confidence from it. And I gained a lot of like, you know what, like you can actually do something if you apply yourself fully. And so I would definitely say like joining clubs was like the thing that helped me the most. And like, honestly, like that was the, a big part of why I got my job, was because they just like saw all the activity on my resume. But yeah, don't be scared, you guys. Just try to show up, and just like, if you show up to enough clubs or events in general, you're eventually going to find something that like you kind of jive with, and you think like, okay, I can see myself coming to this again next Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think like student orgs are a great way for to create a sense of belonging and finding your identities too. So thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share that question? If not, I will. Jim.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna echo the same thing. Yeah, joining clubs and organizations has been really great. Even with, I think I was in a fraternity, and there's a lot of people that I did like, and a lot of people I didn't like. It was good to work with people that you don't like also, because that's gonna be a part of life. And it was great to learn from each other and find common grounds. And I would say like 90% of my clients are from people that I knew when I was in college, and we all kind of help each other out, and it's been great. So yeah,
that's awesome. Anyone else want to share before I move on? Okay, so next question is, how did your experience at CSUF help you as you search for jobs after graduation? How was your experience at CSUF help you as you search for jobs after graduation?
I can go again.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is quick. Like I said, it's literally the reason why I got my job. Someone came like from a company, like they just came to do a little like workshop to teach us MicroStation, which is like this program that engineers use to draw plans. And it was just one of those things where I was like a freshman, and I was like, all right, Miriam, well, you don't have a life, so you should probably show up to this event. And I was like super nervous. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. And so I went and like I did it. And honestly, the event was like 2 hours. The guy just said like a lot of information. I was like trying my best to like figure it out. I was like, I'm never gonna remember any of this. I was like, oh gosh. And then, but yeah, at the end of it, like the guy just kind of remembered that like I asked a few questions here and there, and he just remembered that I showed up. And then like a couple of years later, I ended up being like the president of my club, and I'm like, I decided to do some event that's like, hey, I should bring some alumni back, and let's have something fun. Let's play a game with a bunch of alumni. Like, let's get crazy, y'all. And so I ended up bringing him back. I was like, oh, hey, I remember you from this event. Do you want to come do this event with us? And he's like, okay. So we played the game, and it was great. And then like not too long later, he ends up reaching out to someone else who was who was my president of the club. He said, hey, we need someone for this job. Like, do you know someone? And then my president recommended me, and he's like, oh, I remember this girl from the event. She was like, I just remember that she showed up and that she had like a very like enthusiastic personality. He didn't remember that like I was great at MicroStation or that I'm like a genius. He did not remember that, because I'm definitely not that. But that's just like to reemphasize that like you don't have to be like super smart or a genius in your field. You just have to like have a personality where it's like, I want to show up and I want to try my best. And like a lot of people really remember that, because like they remember the feeling you created in them. So like the guy remembered that, and he ended up writing me like a bomb like email saying like, you should really like, yeah, this girl's great. Like you should really hire her, to his supervisor. And his supervisor brought me in and was like, all right. Like I talked to him for like 5-10 minutes, and he's like, all right, you're hired. And like, boom, I get a 401k now. Like, So, so like, that's like, yes, for sure. It's school. Like, thank you, CSUF. You gave me a job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love your energy too. So definitely very memorable. I think, so I guess, just be yourself and your, let your personality shine through. So, anybody else want to share?
I can go. I mean, a lot of folks earlier have mentioned internships, right? I think what have landed me my job, or like my first job, would be my internships at Cal State Fullerton. So a funny story is that, so I was a student lead at APARC about 3 years ago, and we had invited Asian Americans Advancing Justice to come to APARC to do like a speaking series on different issues that were affecting Asian Americans community in Orange County. And so the person at the time who came to APARC, she said that she said that Asian Americans Advancing Justice was looking for an intern. And so I had reached out to her, and then after I graduated, or actually before I graduated, I interned with them for 3 months, and then about a month before I graduated, they hired me full time. So that's how I got my position at Asian Americans Advancing Justice. So it's all about internship. And funny story is that, so that person at Asian Americans Advancing Justice moved to UCI, and then she brought me along with her. So it's really about connections and, making sure that you put your best foot forward and you be yourself, right? And sometimes it's, just making those connections can really, do come a long way. And you don't know, when you'll need those connections, right? And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that, an internship landed you a real job afterward. That's amazing. Sorry, my slippery fingers just clicked through the slides. Okay, so should I go to the next question? So next question, this is our last one before we open up to our audience. So are there any professors on campus you would recommend taking?
I do have a professor. He's not on campus, but he's accessible to like everyone. So like if you're doing anything in engineering, computer science, like anything like that, you always have to go through like a ton of math classes. And like, I don't know about you guys, but like on my like one of my like the hardest math class we're supposed to take as engineers, I like showed up to the class and the teacher was like, he like looked at us and he parted half our class and he's like, this half is gonna pass. He's like, this half is gonna fail. And he's like, because like every year in that class, 50% of the class fails. And so I was like, oh great, okay, this is the end of the engineering path for me. This is it. And so I was like freaking out and I was like, what am I gonna do? And like, I tried to do like office hours, but like, I just didn't really like, I didn't like the way he taught it, I just didn't happen to understand it. And that was my, that's me. But I like went online and was just like, let me just try to find a different resource. And there's this professor called Professor Leonard. He's the guy who wears like a Superman shirt. If you look him up, he teaches like calculus 1, 2, and 3. And like, he explains it so well. And he's literally the reason why I passed like math. Otherwise, like I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably be like, I don't know, probably still like being in like 6th or 7th year of college, just trying to figure it out still. So I don't know, just like really grateful for him. So Professor Leonard, I put it in the chat or something. So anyone who's like in engineering can look it up, or math major.
Hopefully he's still on campus today.
Oh, no, he's on YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube. Got it.
He's on YouTube.
Awesome. Anybody else?
If anybody's
sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go first.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. I would highly recommend taking a class with Dr. Jennifer A. Yee. If you're in ethnic studies or Asian American studies particular, you probably have heard of her. She's amazing. I'm very blessed to have her both as professor, and then a mentor, and then now as a colleague working on like academic papers and stuff. So we've been through a lot together, and she's just amazing. She offers Asian American Studies 230, which is civic engagement in API community. And I think that was my first ever class that I took with her, and first ever Asian American Studies class that literally was life-changing. And I realized I wanted to work in social justice and serve the community through that class. And she was just a wonderful person, so kind and so humble. And she has a way of connecting with you without ever making you feel like, you know, that she knows all the answer because she's a professor. Like, she has this way of being very cautious and very mindful of, you know, her power as a professor, but making sure that she uplifts your narratives, your experience, and who you are as a person as well. So that's one of the reasons why I just love her so much. And I also recommend Dr. Eric Reyes. He is a really good mentor of mine as well, and I took a lot of his class. And he's just a really, really great person to learn from and to, you know, like to grow with as well. So I definitely recommend, if you're looking to take an Asian American Studies class, those would be my two top favorite professors.
That's awesome. So we just had Professor Yi helped us with our spring kickoff 2 weeks ago, I think. And the first time I ever talked to her, her voice was so soothing, and I was just like, you need to like have a podcast or something, because I just need to listen to your voice all day. And Dr. Reyes is the chair of ASAM, so hopefully we'll get to work with him in the future. And Jimmy, did you want to share?
Sure. If you guys are in art, Theron and John Drew are the best professor. They are completely opposite from each other, so they argue all day when they're in the same room. But I think it's great when you have two different drastically different perspective on everything. Apparently, they are great. So I think it's great that Cal State Fullerton has both these professors, because they come from totally different background, totally different viewpoints. Everything is completely different about them, and if you take both of them, you get good view of a good range of everything. So they're the best.
Awesome. Lisa, do you have one in mind?
I don't know if my professors are there anymore, but I do remember oddly, there is a theater management class in communications, and you think theater, I'm like, I don't want to, I'm not a theater person, but I thought the class was very, very, I think thinking back, it's a well-rounded class to really teach you about, not even just about fundraising, but how to manage a business, and so in my position, it's when I'm working on projects, if I'm soliciting folks, there's, from point A to point B, there's stewardship, there's cultivating, there's soliciting, and then it goes back to stewardship, and it goes back to engagement. But it's like how to manage people, how to manage your position, and how to manage your projects. I felt like that class was really helpful. The one thing I do recommend students to do is to be more in touch with your department chairs, and because they are a great resource. They will probably help you, refer you to other faculty members or even staff members to really help you through the process. I work really closely with the College of Education dean, and I love her. She's a great mentor, and so I would recommend students opening their circle a little bit more, and just try to, again, gain as many mentors as you can, because I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. I learned so much from my professors in an undergrad, and they're still my mentors today, so I'm like super grateful. All right, so that is our 5 questions for our panelists, and again, thank you everyone for being here and joining us. So that concludes our recording session. So I'm going to